What is going on, guys? In today's video we're going to be taking a deep look at the Krig 6 from Black Ops Cold War and the Kilo 141 from Modern Warfare. We're going to be doing a time to kill analysis, a stats analysis, as well as taking a look at both of their recoil patterns. And as for the Krig 6 from Black Ops Cold War, we're going to be looking at what changed stats and recoil pattern wise from this gun whenever it got integrated from Black Ops Cold War multiplayer to Warzone. And without further ado, let's dive right in. Something that I will also be doing at the end of the video is going to be a loadout for the Krig 6 and the Kilo 141, and I will also be doing like a recoil test, doing a recoil pattern without me trying to control the recoil, and then right after that a recoil pattern with me trying to control the recoil. So if you're interested in that, just please stay tuned for the end of the video. So starting off with the damage on the Krig 6, we can see that it has it does 30 points of damage up to 35 meters, so it's a 9-shot kill until then, making it have an effective damage range of 35 meters. Its fire rate is 652 rounds per minute, which is quite slow for the assault rifles, believe it or not. You want this to be upwards to between 700 and 800 rounds per minute, especially for something that has a lower damage in the 30s. The bullet velocity is 667 meters per second. This is kind of in line with most of the other Black Ops Cold War assault rifles. Moving down, the aim down sight speed, standard 300. It's pretty much what most of the assault rifles are, except for the heavier ones like the Scar and the Odin. The reload speed is 2.3 seconds, again, which is in line with the other assault rifles. Taking a look at the recoil pattern, here we have a Krig 6 with no attachments, and this is me not doing anything to control the recoil.
Reloading.
See, it kind of kicks up straight away for a little bit, kind of quickly, and then slows down dramatically, and then you kind of get that nice cluster, and it kicks to the right just a tad bit before going back up. Here you'll see the same test.
Switching mag.
And then this is kind of like just an up close. You can see that it pretty much has very easy controllable recoil, in my opinion. Now moving to time to kill. This is probably, the most important stat that everybody looks at. Something interesting that I do with my time to kill, a lot of people don't, is that I add in the aim down sight speed in seconds. I also add in how long it's going to take for a bullet to travel 5 meters. You just have to do this one time because it's going to be like the last bullet to kill somebody. It adds in a little bit, but it makes the graph look better, in my opinion, just because you get this kind of downward slope that you see. But anyway, so the time to kill is going to be between 1.1 seconds and 1.3 seconds. This is kind of long for an assault rifle, but it is very accurate. In my opinion, it's almost like they were afraid that this assault rifle was going to be too powerful, so they made the damage very low. But, comparatively the other rifles. But anyway, this thing is going to be an absolute laser beam, and it is going to be very easy to control. Another thing about the time to kill graph is that these values are in reverse order, meaning that the time to kill gets worse or longer as you move down the graph. I did this because it makes it a lot easier to view all the assault rifles whenever they're all stacked up on top of each other, and you just look at whichever one is on top. That is going to be your best one. Moving on to how this gun is compared to itself in Black Ops Cold War. Kind of a surprise here. Most of the Black Ops Cold War guns got a buff to Warzone. This one seems like it got a nerf. The damage is down by 5 points, which is pretty significant whenever you boost the damage from 150 from Black Ops Cold War to 250 with 3 plates of armor in Warzone. So this is kind of a significant nerf here. Another nerf is the effective damage range, going from 50 to 35. Also very significant whenever it comes to Warzone, when most of your gunfights are going to be between about 30 and 55 meters of range. Fire rate stays the same. This has been pretty common for all of the integration. It's kind of like the only thing they don't seem to be touching, which is weird because you would think that they would do something with the fire rate if they're already changing the recoil pattern as well as the damage and bullet velocity and everything else. Anyway, bullet velocity seems to get a slight nerf, but however, it wouldn't surprise me if this was also just a rounding error and it was actually the same. I wouldn't pay too much attention to this. The bullet velocity is very hard to calculate in the current Warzone private match. Basically, you get like 300 meters away, you fire a bullet at a building and wait for the tracer to disappear. Aim down sight speed is the same, magazine ammo capacity the same, reload quickness the same, no surprises there. Moving on to the Kilo 141, everybody's favorite. This is kind of what everybody thinks is like the meta right now. This is post-nerf. I'm recording this on December 22nd. If you guys don't know, there was like a secret nerf, but all it did was take away the Warzone buff that was on it, which kind of surprised people because, like myself, I'm like, well, what other guns have a secret Warzone buff that Activision is not telling us about? But nonetheless, the damage is 28 points, giving it a 9 shot to kill up to 25 meters, and at 30 meters, that is going to increase to 11 shots at only a damage of 23. And then there's going to be another drop off at 55 meters when the damage goes down to 18, forcing this gun to have 14 shots to kill. But it does have a very high fire rate of 750 rounds per minute, a high bullet velocity of 720 meters per second, an aim down sight speed of 300 milliseconds. This is pretty standard, common, what we've been seeing. Ammo 30, reload speed 2.36 seconds, all standard stuff from assault rifles that we've seen so far. Now let's look at the recoil pattern. Again, this is going to be the Kilo 141, no attachments, and me not moving the thumbstick or anything like that to try to control the recoil.
Disregard.
This recoil pattern honestly surprised me. I didn't know it didn't go up at all. I thought it was going to be kind of like a reverse M4 where it goes up like the M4 does, but instead of kicking right, kicks left. But this gun doesn't really go up vertically at all. It's just a slight kick from left.
Changing map.
And there it is again. There you can see up close, just in comparison to the Krig even, which is a very accurate assault rifle in terms of vertical recoil especially. Doesn't go up nearly as much as something like the AK, which would have touched all the way up here. And then here we have the Kilo going up half as much as the Krig does, but with just a slight recoil to the left. This is very, very easy to control. Okay, moving on to the time to kill to this gun. It is between 1 second and 1.5 seconds. Again, this is including the bullet velocity as well as the aim down sight speed. And a quick note that we're going to get a 16% increase to time to kill at 30 meters. This is this drop off here, which is going to be like the first one, likely the only one that you're going to feel if you're using attachments that increase the effective damage range of this gun whenever you're actually getting your loadout in Warzone. Again, this is the base gun. Honestly, this is kind of pretty standard for most of the assault rifles, having between a 1 and 1.5 second time to kill after you include the aim down sight speed and the bullet velocity. Here we are moving on. These are all of the stats that I've collected from assault rifles so far. We are only going to be focused on the Krig 6 and the Kilo 141 in this video. If you want to see the comparison of these other 4 assault rifles, I will attach the card above me here for you to check out that, or you can just look at you can look at the videos in my video feed on my channel. But anyway, so the Krig 6 is slightly stronger than the Kilo with only a 26 damage from the Kilo. This is very surprising to me. I thought it was going to be at least up par with the M4 at 28. Effective damage range is also better on the Krig 6, but the thing that hurts the Krig the most is it has this low damage and also a low fire rate. You can see here with the other assault rifles like the M4, XM4, and Kilo, they have a low damage, but they also have a high fire rate. Again, it kind of seems like Treyarch was just afraid. Treyarch and Infinity Ward, I guess, because this gun is in Warzone. They were both afraid that this gun was going to be so good and such a meta that they honestly made some mistakes, I would think, with things like fire rate and damage that made this gun not very good, even though it is accurate. But with attachments, it's not really that much more accurate than the Kilo. The Kilo is more accurate. The M4 is just as accurate. So is the XM4. But the damage and the bullet velocity and the fire rate on this gun are just so much worse than these other weapons. Anyway, the aim down sight speed, about the same. Magazine ammo capacity, same. Reload quickness, same. All these are about 2.3. You see this low ones on these just because those reload times, including all of these reload times, are from the time that I hit reload to the time that you actually see the bullets show up in the magazine on the screen, and you can cancel the rest of the animation. Obviously, the XM4, M4, and AK-47 from Modern Warfare have that issue that the animation and the actual reload quickness are not lined up correctly. Moving on to recoil patterns, we saw the footage of the recoil patterns already, so I'm not going to show it again, but this is just kind of what you can expect from these assault rifles compared to the other ones. Like I said, here there's this like line that you can see that separates the building right here, right here, and right here, and right here again. And that can tell you like kind of judgment how vertical these recoil patterns go. As you can see, the Krig 6 doesn't even go as high as the XM4. The Kilo is half of the Krig 6, so this thing barely bounces up at all. As far as going to the left, it goes left like 3 panels, whereas the XM4 goes left, I think that's about 4 or 5. So you can see that even the horizontal recoil on this thing is almost 0, especially whenever you put like a Commando foregrip on it. It's really going to mitigate the horizontal recoil a lot. But moving on to the time to kill graph of all the assault rifles I've collected so far, I plan on adding every single assault rifle in Warzone to this graph. First, I'm going to start off with the Black Ops Cold War weapons and comparables like I have been doing. And eventually, I'm going to dump all the Modern Warfare weapons in this as well and then make a video over. If you guys are interested in something like that, you should subscribe to my channel. But looking at the time to kill graph, again, very surprised by this Krig 6 line here. Very accurate gun, but has a horribly low time to kill. In my opinion, making it the worst assault rifle that I have looked at so far, just because of how low that time to kill is. I think the Krig needs a buff. I know a lot of people like this gun, they think it's very good, but as you can see from my analysis, at least, it is not good. It's actually the worst time to kill weapon. As for the Kilo, as expected, it's going to be this light blue line here, up in line with the other assault rifles that we've tested so far, and some high power assault rifles we've tested in both of these AK-47s in yellow and in red, and it's still right up here with at least the AK-47 from Modern Warfare, making this gun one of the best guns in the game. I think the only thing that hurts this gun is probably the damage range, similarly to the M4, and its time to kill, because in most cases the M4 has a faster time to kill, which is why I have it at second on my ranking, just above the Kilo. But like I said, I think this could come down to personal preference just based on what recoil pattern you prefer. Me, I like this one that it goes to the right, even though it goes up a little bit, but with attachments it's very controllable. Whereas the Kilo bounces to the left, and that's something I'm not really used to, but some people do prefer that pattern anyway. So I think it's kind of a toss-up between the M4 and the Kilo. I think the meta in this game is actually the XM4 being right here, having a higher time to kill in most cases and a very good damage range. Only has one drop right here, 20 meters, and then this is the damage range the rest of the way. I think the only thing hurting this gun is recoil, maybe, but that, like I said, is a big maybe, just because, you know, it still handles very, very well. You can't really say that it's like a recoil like the AK-47. If you look at the recoil pattern, it's pretty much the same as the M4. It's like a little bit worse. So I couldn't really come up with anything that was negative about that gun. But anyway, I promised you guys loadouts for the Krig 6 and the Kilo 141, so let's get into those right now. So starting off with the Krig 6, we see that we are using the agency suppressor here, which is kind of like the monolithic suppressor that we've been used to from Modern Warfare. In terms of barrels go, it's kind of hard to pick a barrel because there's not a clear winner here. Most of the assault rifles in Black Ops Cold War have an option where you can do effective damage range or bullet velocity, but right here you can see that it's either or. There's no barrel here that has effective damage range and bullet velocity. I decided the effective damage range was more important than bullet velocity, so this is the one that I went with. As far as the underbarrel, there is a clear winner here. The field agent grip is the best grip in Black Ops Cold War, so we're going with this one again, so you get both vertical and horizontal recoil control. The other ones either do one or the other, or they actually hurt, you know, the recoil control in some of them. Moving on to ammunition, I think that these 60 round fast mags is the best way to go, dramatically increasing the reload time and your ammo capacity at the same time. Doesn't hurt the ADM sight speed as much as you would think. Honestly, it's hardly noticeable in game. And then as far as an optic goes, I have many optic choices. So the optics that I would personally use in Black Ops Cold War are going to be at the top right here. On the very left, this is the Microflex LED and the Silix Hollow Scout. Those are the people that are going to build an assault rifle that are going to favor that kind of short to medium range, and then they can still kind of see down range if they want a longer range engagement, especially something on like the Krig or like the XM4, where you might not really love the iron sights, or any of the assault rifles you don't really love the iron sights. These are the two that I would use for those more up close engagements. I think the slight winner, in my opinion, is going to be the Silix Hollow Scout right here. It's a little bulky, but I do like that the actual dot is a little bit farther away from the end of the iron sight here, and you don't really see that kind of distracting you about where you want to point your gun to shoot at. And then my favorite optic in Black Ops Cold War has to be this Axial Arms 3X optic, kind of countering the VLK 3X, but I'm standing in the same spot right here, and you can see that the Axial Arms optic has a much better zoom on it and a clear sight picture as well. As far as optic on the Krig 6 goes, I would probably go with this Axial Arms 3X. So right here, this is going to be the Krig 6 with all the attachments that I just mentioned, using one of the optics that I like, the shorter range one that I preferred. And the first recoil pattern I'm going to show, I'm not going to try and control the recoil at all, but the second one I am going to try to control the recoil. Excuse that bot right there that was trying to harass me while I was doing this. But as you can see, it's kind of just a smaller version of what we saw earlier, the base weapon, but it mitigates it a little bit, so there's not as much left to right movement or vertical movement with the attachments that we added.
Switching mag.
And then right here, you can see me try to control the recoil pattern, and it is very controlled, very accurate gun, and it turns this gun into an absolute laser beam. Moving on to the Kilo 141's loadout, I recommend using the monolithic suppressor. No surprise here, you get damage range and sound suppression. As far as barrels go, I would use the Singard Arms 19.8-inch Prowler barrel because you get the most damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control compared to these other barrels. As far as the underbarrel, I would use the Commando foregrip just because it gives you that horizontal recoil boost that is necessary for the Kilo, because most of its recoil is just straight to the left like we saw earlier. 60 round mags, I don't really like the 100 round mags because I think that if you use the VLK, it's going to be too much of an aim down sight speed nerf. It's going to take too long to ADS. So I like 60 rounds, but this is kind of one of those things that's a toss up. In terms of sights go, again, we have many sights to choose from. Moving on to our recoil test with all these attachments. This is me shooting this gun with all the attachments that I mentioned before with the Corp Combat Hollow Sight, and I'm not going to do anything to try and control the recoil.
Reload.
As you can see, it's kind of, like I said, like a mini version of the base weapons recoil pattern as we expected, and that turn to the left is a lot lower than what it was earlier because of the Commando foregrip. Here I'm trying to control the recoil. As you can see, it's very, very easy to control. I lay weight to all 60 shots right here. Okay, so that concludes the video for everything I have today. I hope you guys learned something and made you be able to make better decisions on what guns you want to add into your loadout today. If you did, give the video a like, and if you want more content like this, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, especially because I'm a smaller channel. It's going to be a lot harder for you to see my video again if you want to find your way back to my channel. And as always, I hope you guys all have a great day.